After the recent test, Fang Hao also understood how to operate the demon space. Items could not be stored out of thin air through thought, but required physical touch. This point was quite consistent with the characteristics of the Lord's Book, as both devouring other people's Lord's books and collecting scrolls required touch to be achieved. Storing items followed the same method. The storage space had no specific size description, but, based on the wooden table placed inside, it could be roughly estimated to be a rectangular space about 5 meters long and 4 meters wide. It was somewhat similar to the space where the desk was placed inside the Demon Stone Cave just now, and the size was not much different. In short, it was a small room of over 20 square meters with a height close to 3 meters. He could arrange what he wanted to store. However, living creatures and troops could not be stored inside. If they could, it would certainly be very convenient to use this function for kidnapping. My lord, the defense deployment task has been assigned. 100,000 troops will remain here under Terry's command. Dimitega walked over. Terry followed behind and simultaneously spoke up to assure, "Rest assured, my lord. I will definitely guard the fortress well." "Yes, I trust you, Terry," Fang Hao said. After assigning all the tasks, the three of them, Fang Hao, began to return to the territory. It wasn't late yet, but it was already 3 or 4 o'clock. Including the journey back, it would likely be dinner time. Returning to the main city, had already prepared dinner. The few of them sat together and ate, while Anya was still excitedly recounting the scene of the great battle with the mud monster. The scene was so grand. It was practically a battle between gods. Fang Hao's eyes widened. If he hadn't been present at the time, he would have almost believed that the mud monster had fought so many rounds with her. And Dimitega, who was beside them, remained silent. He didn't expose Anya, and instead listened with great interest himself. Ding. At this moment, the Lord's Book sent a private chat notification sound. Opening it, he saw that Zhang Bin had sent a message. Now they had a territory channel, and chatting within the channel didn't consume chat count. But whether it was Zhang Bin or Fu Lei, when discussing matters concerning the governed cities with Fang Hao, they still used private chat. Of course, this was also good, as it still maintained the secrets of the various cities within the territory. "Boss, we've secured 2 affiliated villages today," Zhang Bin said. The addition of the Cold Wind Mountains made the food situation within the territory suddenly become tense. He had asked Shaman Klai, and according to Klai, each tribe's own food reserves were enough to last for a month. If they were not provided with food within a month, the Cold Wind Mountains would return to their original period of mutual attacks, with tribes plundering food from each other. Fang Hao valued the mineral resources of the Cold Wind Mountains and had also promised to provide them with food. That he would work hard to achieve this. He had already asked cloth merchant Tavik to help contact grain merchants, and at the same time, Zhang Bin was also working hard for food, trying his best to recruit affiliated villages. "Well done," Fang Hao praised, but there was nothing he could reward him with. "Hee. Thank you, boss," Zhang Bin continued. "Oh, by the way, boss, I promised to arrange troops for defense in the villages. But the troops within the city aren't quite enough." This was the issue Zhang Bin wanted to talk about. There weren't enough troops, and Fang Hao hadn't given him the recruitment permission. "Oh, all right. I'll go there tomorrow morning and recruit some troops for you. And also change some equipment," Fang Hao replied. Zhang Bin's territory had relatively few troop types. Only militia and greatsword infantry could be recruited for city defense. Some undead troops that Fang Hao had left for him could be stationed. But for those stationed in affiliated villages, undead troops couldn't be used. It could easily cause panic. If you took over an affiliated village today and stationed some undead, the village would be empty the next day. All the villagers running away was also a problem. Therefore, troops from the human faction were still needed for stationing, and the building blueprints that Fang Hao had converted into the undead faction could not be unlocked for Zhang Bin to build. "Okay, then I won't disturb you, boss," Zhang Bin said politely. "Yes, you should also rest early. Your health is your capital, buddy." "Got it, boss." Closing the chat with Zhang Bin, Fang Hao continued eating, listening to Anya switch to another story, seemingly about how she fought with those orc children when she was little. The next day, after eating breakfast, Fang Hao rode the bone dragon to Zhongbin's place to recruit some greatsword infantry. These were to be stationed in the affiliated villages to increase their defense capabilities. After returning, Fang Hao continued to inspect the territory to see if there was anywhere he was needed. Everyone was busy with their own affairs. Whether it was the skeleton craftsman or the skeleton merchant Duojin, completing their respective duties. After touring around, Fang Hao also began to prepare for today's plan. He still had a map received from the tavern in his hand, which also marked a village that yesterday's had given Fang Hao a surprise. For today's village, he hoped to also receive a good reward. Calling Anya and Dimitega, they set off directly. After stopping at the fortress and selecting 10 greatsword infantry, they continued towards the target location. The village was located to the west of Pearl City. The road was a bit winding, and even without carrying any burdens, it still took nearly an hour to walk. The outline of the village could be seen from afar. Villagers were coming and going at the village entrance, and there were even guards on the wall keeping watch. It looked somewhat like a small bandit stronghold. When the guards discovered Fang Hao's group, they immediately became tense. The village gate closed instantly, and more people ascended the wall. "It seems they don't welcome us much," Fang Hao said softly upon seeing this scene. "The arrows are already knocked. It's more than just not welcoming." Anya glanced at the people on the wall. At this moment, more and more people appeared on the village's defensive wall, until a heavily armored strong man walked up. His gaze swept over Fang Hao and the others who were outside of arrow range. "Who are you?" Someone on the defensive wall shouted loudly. "Tell him we received a bounty in the village saying there's trouble here, and we specifically came to help," Fang Hao said. A greatsword infantry beside him stepped forward 2 steps and shouted loudly, "Don't be nervous. We received a bounty posted by the village at the tavern and are here to help." The words of the greatsword infantry caused a brief commotion among the people on the wall. Although their words couldn't be heard, it was clear they were discussing and were somewhat angry. Before long, someone on the other side shouted again, "Oh, thank you, but we've already solved the trouble ourselves. The village is not convenient to entertain guests right now. Please go back." The other side spoke loudly, but the arrows knocked on their bows were never lowered. They remained constantly vigilant towards Fang Hao's group. "All right, tell him we're heading back," Fang Hao said, giving the few people on the village wall a deep look. The greatsword infantry shouted again, "Okay, then we won't bother you any further." After speaking, the group turned and left in the direction they had come from. Along the way, Anya spoke up. "These people don't look like villagers. They have a bandit-like air about them." Hearing this, Fang Hao also felt that those people didn't seem like good people. "Dimitega, what do you think?" Fang Hao looked at Dimitega. Dimitega, who usually spoke little, said, "My lord, there are 3 people on the wall wearing heavy armor of different styles. They should belong to different forces. Their current chaotic gathering is more consistent with the mountain bandits Miss Anya mentioned. Different factions armor gathered in one group. Then this group could only be bandits or mountain brigands. It seems the trouble mentioned in the bounty has already entered the village 1 step ahead of us." The large group left directly along the main path. After getting out of sight of the village, they came to a mountain hollow under Fang Hao's direction and set up camp. Under the command of Demeter, the team began to set up simple defenses to prevent any sudden situations. Fang Hao took out a skeleton gray sparrow and immediately cast Divine Descent. When Soulfire appeared in the gray sparrow's empty pupils, it flapped its wings and flew back towards the village. The village was still on alert, with guards standing on the city walls and the main gate tightly shut, controlling the gray sparrow. Fang Hao avoided the guard's sight on the left side of the village and flew in. On the village streets, in front of wooden houses, gathered fierce men wearing different armor. They gathered in groups, treating the village like their own camp, laughing and talking loudly. Not a single person dressed as a villager was seen. Fang Hao's heart stirred. It seemed Demeter and Anya's guess was correct. The place had been occupied by bandits and robbers, controlling the gray sparrow. He continued to fly into the village, and before long, he saw the villagers. Everyone was gathered in the open space in the center of the village, with men, women, old, and young being guarded separately. In front of the crowd, the heavily armored man from the city wall earlier was pacing back and forth. holding a leather whip. You guys really have no shame. I didn't kill you, and yet someone went to the city to post a bounty. Very good. Since you did it, stand up and admit it, so others don't have to suffer because of you. The man said loudly to those below. The villagers remained silent. No one would stand out at this moment. All right, very good. You have the guts to do it, but not the guts to admit it, huh? Hang everyone up and beat them until someone is willing to admit it, the man said loudly. The bandits behind him immediately stepped forward, about to hang everyone up. I did it. At this moment, a young man stood out, looking coldly at the bandits. You did it? Good kid. Aren't you afraid of death? The bandit leader curiously sized up the man in front of him. I'm afraid of death, but one person's actions are their own responsibility. You don't need to implicate others, the young man said, puffing out his chest. The villagers looked at the young man, cursing him in their hearts for being too impulsive. Good, spirited. Hang him up and beat him, but remember not to beat him to death, the leader said loudly. Yes. The bandits laughed heartily and directly hung the young man up, the leather whip in there. Hands lashed fiercely against his body in the clearing. Loud cracking sounds of the whip and painful wails rang out. Boss, why don't we just kill these people? It won't be good if we attract the army from Pearl City, a bandit said softly. Kill them, and you'll go cultivate the land. Tell the brothers to collect all the items, and before nightfall, move everyone up the mountain. Then we can continue to live freely and happily, the bandit boss said loudly, causing cheers from the subordinates below. I don't know what that little girl Rebecca is crazy about. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have run to this wretched place. Exactly. I heard Rebecca has half-elf blood and is known as the most beautiful woman in Lysis City. When we have more men, we'll snatch that little girl and make her the boss's wife. Hearing this, the bandit boss also burst into laughter. There will be a chance. This place is good too. At least no one will bother us. He spread out a leather map in his hand and explained to a few subordinates. This is our camp, and these 3 places around are orc tribes. I've talked to these tribes. If there are any large merchant caravans, we'll raid them together, and the spoils will be distributed according to contribution. Those orcs are very greedy. Will that work? A subordinate said. Greed requires brains. Do those guys have brains? In the end, it'll all be ours, the leader said, glancing at the villagers below. Keep a close eye on these people. We'll need them for farming in the future. Boss, shall we continue searching for things we can take? Go ahead. Items, food, take everything. Leave nothing behind. Okay. The bandits dispersed, like a sweeping operation, searching house by house for all items that could be taken. Fang Hao lifted the divine descent state and sat up from the mountain hollow where they were camped. Anya immediately asked, How is it? Who are they? They are bandits driven out by the Lysis City army. They've captured the villagers and plan to take everyone to their newly established camp after looting the village, Fang Hao explained. What do they need villagers for when building a camp? Anya asked curiously. The bandit camps they had previously wiped out were all bandits. There were very few villagers. They're probably short on labor. From what I heard them say, they plan to live in the camp long-term and need people for farming and such. Fang Hao relayed the information he had heard. Bandits and robbers rarely had the habit of farming. Most relied on plunder. Even in winter, their reserve grain was plundered from nearby villages, sometimes. A rule had formed between bandits and villages. Pay the bandits 30% of the grain each year, and they wouldn't harass you. It was considered a form of protection fee, from what these people said. Fang Hao also understood some things about the bandits. They had already fled here before and established a camp on the mountain. Today, they had come down to plunder the nearby villages. And unexpectedly, Fang Hao happened to catch them. So what now? Should we just charge in? Anya said again. No, we'll go to their camp and wait for them. As soon as he finished speaking, the skeleton gray sparrow flew down from overhead, holding a simple map made of leather in its mouth. The map marked the location of the bandit camp and several small orc tribes nearby. How do we get there? Return to the camp, ride the bone dragons, and destroy the camp as quickly as possible. Okay. The large group returned to the fortress, the fortress. Fang Hao directly changed his troop types. 3 bone dragons, carrying troops, flew towards the location of the bandit camp marked on the map that it was only about a 20-minute flight, and they had already reached the sky above the camp. The camp was not large in scale, with dozens of bandits stationed there. Attack! The bow and dragon swooped down, and where the crowd gathered, there was death breath. The black energy beam swept across, and several bandits instantly turned into white bones. The bandits screamed loudly, scattering and fleeing everywhere within the camp. The skeleton troll leaped off the dragon's back and began clearing up the few stragglers who had slipped through the net, approaching dusk on the mountain path leading to the bandit camp. The sound of bandits laughing could be heard. Carts formed a long line, pulling the spoils looted from the village, accompanied by the creak sound of rolling wheels. They advanced up the mountain. Behind the convoy were the villagers, with their hands bound, being driven forward like prisoners. The villagers' faces were pale. Children and women sobbed softly, biting their teeth tightly, not letting themselves cry out loud to attract the bandits' attention. "Boss, there are a few good-looking girls here. After you're done, give them to us, okay? When have you ever been left out? Remember, be gentle this time, don't kill them." "Yes, yes, yes." The bandits discussed without any reservations, and when a few nearby villagers heard them, their faces turned even paler. These people were simply devils. The large group advanced little by little. Soon they arrived at the mountain gate of the camp. "Halt!" The leader shouted loudly. "What's wrong, boss?" But the words were immediately swallowed back. The scene before them made their mouths drop open. Their newly built camp had now turned into a pile of ruins, and at the entrance of the camp, the faint light of the setting sun, like cicada wings, scattered rays through the gaps in the dense forest. That a skeleton wearing leather armor was sitting on the steps, his gaze surveying everyone below. The bandits' throats bobbed, and they couldn't help but swallow. "This is truly goddamn haunted. You're really slow. If you didn't come, I would have gone back to eat," the skeleton said slowly. The bandits were startled. Two of them even felt their legs go weak, nearly collapsing onto the ground. You were waiting for us." Half an hour ago, when Fang Hao and the others finished clearing out the bandit camp, a silver treasure chest was directly thrown in front of Fang Hao by a skeleton. He chose to open it immediately. Obtained fortress construction blueprint, white steel dagger crafting blueprint, blue, war leopard ocarina, soul crystal 4, war coin 22. The haul was averaged. He got a fortress construction blueprint and a white steel dagger crafting blueprint. He already had a fortress, which he had built and which had played a significant role in battle. He would sell the one he just obtained to others when he returned. He continued to examine the white steel dagger. White steel dagger, blue. Hard tough wood 2, white steel ingot 2, thick tough leather 1. There was nothing particularly special about it, and Fang Hao's territory didn't have any troops skilled in using daggers. It could only be considered as adding to his blueprint reserves. After putting away the items he had opened, Matarga strode over. "Lord, all the bandits in the camp have been cleared out. Not a single one escaped alive. Good. Now all we have to do is wait for those bandits to return." According to the conversation Fang Hao had overheard earlier, the bandits would return to the camp with goods and people after finishing their scavenging. They just had to wait for them here. "Lord, I will go and arrange some men first, in case their scouts return ahead of time." "Okay, you go and make the arrangements." Matarga took the order and left, leading a group of soldiers to the side. Just then, Anya returned with some people. They were carrying the spoils they had searched for. These bandits had escaped and brought quite a few good things with them. Besides some gold and silver ornaments, cloth, and silk, there was also a small box of coins. There were over 3,000 coins in total. "These guys aren't as rich as Cold Wind City," Anya said with some dissatisfaction. "How can this small place compare to the Cold Wind mountain range?" Fang Hao said. Skull Crusher Sal had accumulated that much wealth after scavenging the Cold Wind mountain range for so many years. How could these bandits compare? "That's true. Look, is this a map?" Anya handed over an old map. Map, mysterious stable category, single-page map, description, a single-page map marking a special location. You can try adventuring there. Perhaps there will be unexpected gains. It was indeed a map. "Where did you find it?" Fang Hao asked. "In that house in the center. It should be the bandit leader's room." Anya pointed to the location behind her. There was a 2-story wooden building there. The largest structure in this simple camp.it was also the building where the leader lived. It's a map. After this matter is over, we can go and take a look there, Fang Hao said. Okay. After searching the camp, Fang Hao and the others waited here for the bandits to return. Time passed bit by bit, and Fang Hao finally heard the bandits' unrestrained laughter from down the mountain in the distance. The forest was intertwined with roots, and the canopy covered the sky. This made the already darkening sky, which was entering dusk, even gloomier. Fang Hao looked down the mountain path and saw a long convoy of carts coming up the mountain. Besides the carts loaded with goods, there were also villagers with their hands tied, walking like slaves, standing in front of the mountain gate. They looked at Fang Hao in surprise. "You're so slow. If you didn't come soon, I would have gone back to eat," Fang Hao said slowly. Clang. Two bandits were so startled that they stumbled, their weapons hitting the cart with a dull sound. You were waiting for us." The bandit leader's eyes widened as he asked in disbelief that he couldn't figure out why. After a successful raid, what greeted him wasn't women and fine wine, but a skeletal figure that could talk to him. "Otherwise, I'm afraid no one else will come here," Fang Hao replied. The leader swallowed, his eyes quickly scanning his subordinates around him. That he asked bravely, "What do you want with us?" "Nothing much, just killing people." As soon as he finished speaking, a sudden change occurred in the quiet forest. Large numbers of undead appeared like ghosts along the road, raising their weapons and pouncing on the bandits like wild beasts. "Pick up your weapons and fight back, quick. Kill these undead, otherwise none of us will survive. Gather around me, quick. Gather around me." The undead attacked fiercely, directly rushing into the bandit ranks. In just one encounter, dozens of bandits fell in pools of blood. The bandit leader shouted orders loudly, but the entire mountain road was already in chaos. Bandits kept falling in pools of blood, and amidst their mournful wails, the undead delivered 2 more blows. The bandits near the leader formed a small defensive circle. They were resisting the fierce attack. But judging from the situation on the ground, it was only delaying the time of death. The leader and a few others were being pushed back by the undead, their steps constantly retreating. They were struggling to maintain their defense, and people kept falling. The leader looked at Fang Hao, who was watching the show on the steps, and shouted loudly, "What do you want? If you want living people, you can have all these slaves. If you push us too hard, you won't get anything good either." Although he had never seen the undead, he had heard some things about them. If you were to ask what the undead wanted, the first thing that came to his mind was that they needed living people as sacrifices to perform some evil rituals. Fang Hao glanced at the bandits, but did not answer. The battle continued, sparks occasionally flashing between colliding weapons, and the clanging of metal echoing endlessly. The chaotic fighting on the road did not affect the villagers whose hands were tied. When they realized that the tall, undead-wielding greatswords only attacked people holding weapons, they began to cautiously retreat down the mountain. After retreating a short distance, they found that neither side in the battle paid any attention to them. They then quickened their pace and ran down the mountain. No one would stay here and wait for the battle to end, because no matter which side won, it would not benefit them in any way. In the blink of an eye, all the villagers had run away. As the villagers left, Manga also emerged from the dense forest, sweeping his long sword horizontally and killing a large number of bandits again. "You came to the village this morning. I've seen you, lizard man," the leader shouted loudly. Manga looked at the only remaining bandit leader and said solemnly, "Come on, this is your last chance." The leader's body trembled, his previously flickering eyes once again revealing determination and sharpness. This was his last chance. "I'll fight you to the death." The leader shouted and thrust the long sword in his hand towards the lizardman's neck. That was a spot not covered by armor. If he hit it, the lizardman would die by his hand. However, he had underestimated the lizardman before him. The heavy long sword was as light as a one-handed sword in the lizardman's hand. With a slight force, it deflected his sword strike, and the blade cut open his throat. Hot blood gushed out, and he slowly knelt down, his face filled with disbelief. "Lord, all the bandits have been eliminated." Manga came before Fang Hao. "Good. Clean up the battlefield and take all the spoils back." "Yes, Lord." The soldiers began to clean up the battlefield again. besides the dead bandits. There were also many items looted from the village that were left behind. Since the villagers had all left, he had no choice but to take all these items back. Lord, please take a look at this. Mitarga handed over the item in his hand. It was an item found on the bandit leader's body. A small token. The token was made of some unknown material, somewhat like metal, but without the texture of metal when touched. There were 5 pieces in total, each inscribed with the same word. Purple scale, that recruitment token, purple scale, type, item, description. Some magical strongholds and facilities will randomly appear in the wilderness. They are full of danger and opportunity. Recruitment tokens can be used to recruit special troop units at the corresponding facilities. Fang Hao suddenly remembered the special map he had just obtained. Seeing the description of the recruitment token, Fang Hao instantly remembered the map and Jia had just found. Mysterious stable. Could this map lead to a facility where recruits can be found? There's a very high possibility. The map was found in the bandit leader's room, and the recruitment token was also found on him. To a large extent. These two are directly related. My lord, the cleanup is finished. We can head back now. Dimika walked over again. Okay, Dimika, you lead the team back to the fortress first. And Jia and I are going out for a bit, Fang Hao said after thinking for a moment. Dimika hesitated for a moment, feeling that it might be a bit dangerous for Fang Hao to go out with Jia. But then he thought, Fang Hao is currently in a divine state, so even death won't threaten his own life. He felt relieved. All right, please be careful on your way. My lord, Dimika nodded and said. Don't worry, it's just nearby. You go first, we'll catch up quickly. Fang Hao told him not to worry too much. The location marked on the map is nearby, and it's unlikely there's anything dangerous here. Otherwise, these bandits wouldn't have built their camp here. The only thing needed is to hurry and return to the territory before dark. All right. Dimika walked back to the team and shouted loudly. Set off. Return to the fortress. Whoosh. The bone dragon soared into the sky with the goods. Below, the grave guards pushed their carts, forming a long line, and walked down the mountain. As the undead team gradually moved away, Fang Hao looked at the map in his hand and identified the direction. The location marked on the map was southeast of the bandit camp, which was the central structure. There was no specific distance, but it was definitely not far. Fang Hao climbed onto the bone dragon, and Jia also sat in the back. Where are we going? Aren't we going back for dinner? And Jia rubbed her stomach, apparently hungry. It's not far. We'll eat when we get back. Just bear with it. Fang Hao patted the bone dragon and pointed in the direction marked on the map. The bone dragon flew up, soaring above the dense forest. Fang Hao looked at the locations below, searching for that stable. When the bone dragon circled for the second time, it was Jia who discovered a peculiar structure among the trees below. The bone dragon landed, and Fang Hao and Jia dismounted. This really was a stable, surrounded by vines from the dense forest, forming a stable that blended in with the surrounding environment. Forest stable. Category: Wild building recruitment. Swift purple scale horse. Swift purple scale horse. Purple scale recruitment token. Remaining time: 2 hours 42 minutes 33 seconds. Swift purple scale horse. Purple scale horses recruited cannot breed. As expected, the stable and the recruitment token in hand are related. Moreover, there's a remaining time. Once the time is up, the building will likely disappear. By then, even with more tokens, there will be nowhere to recruit. The maximum quantity is 5 recruits. I wonder if the hundredfold increase can be triggered here. Set the recruitment quantity to 5. Select recruit. The hundredfold increase triggered. Recruited 505 swift purple scale horses. The system prompt appeared, and Fang Hao was delighted. The next second, purple light appeared, and 505 purple horses appeared around the forest. Different from ordinary horses, the purple scale horses were like sapphire blue glaze, shining brightly under the setting sun's rays. Their limbs were long and powerful, and the long hair on their coronets fluttered as they walked. What beautiful horses! And Jia exclaimed. One purple scale horse seemed to understand Jia's praise, actively walked over, lowered its proud head, allowing Jia to stroke its head. I like this one. This one is mine from now on. And Jia stroked the horse. Let's give you a cool name. Let's call you Skull Crusher. No way, that's too disrespectful. Fang Hao quickly stopped her upon hearing it. Skullcrusher was killed by Fang Hao, and Nelson is currently working on him. In a couple of days. He will join the territory as a skeleton hero. What do you mean by naming your horse Skullcrusher? When you call out Skullcrusher then, are you calling the hero or the horse? And it's also disrespectful. Then how about Fireblade? Do you only have these two words? Can you stop harming our allies? See, he's even interfering with me naming you. When we get back, I'll think of a nice name for you, one he won't hear. And Jia stroked the purple scale horse in front of her. Nay. The purple scale horse snorted loudly and glared at Fang Hao with its large eyes. These horses are quite smart. Fang Hao continued. To check the attributes of the swift purple scale. Horse. Swift purple scale horse. Faction, non-racial trait. Living creature. Ultra high stamina. Tireless march. Skills, evasion, purple lightning. Iron hoof. Innate ability, advanced speed mastery. Ultra high stamina. This unit possesses extremely high stamina and can run continuously for a longer period. Tireless march. This unit is immune to any form of slowing effects. Evasion, while moving at high speed. Ranged evasion plus 20%. Purple lightning. Entering high-speed movement state. Running speed plus 50%. Iron hoof. Front and hind hoof attack damage plus 10%. The attributes of the swift purple scale horse are indeed good. Both speed and stamina have bonuses. And their appearance is handsome and majestic. Very beautiful. They are several grades better than the Tier 1 horses that are bred. In the future, whether in combat or trade. These horses will play a significant role. Alright, and Jia, stop playing. Aren't you hungry? Take them back, Fang Hao shouted loudly. Okay. The bone dragon flew back first. While Fang Hao and Jia returned to the fortress with the 505 swift purple scale horses, by the time everything was finished and the three returned to the main city. It was already getting dark. Moonfall Highlands. Blood Race Castle. The Red Duke, dressed in a black formal suit with crimson eyes, was sitting on the throne in the center of the hall. On a side table nearby. There was a glass of fresh blood just taken from the blood cellar. Is there any news from the scouts? So many days have passed. Don't tell me you haven't gotten any news at all. The Red Duke's tone was cold, revealing dissatisfaction and reproach. The Blood Race members below swallowed their saliva and said, Your Grace, the Pale Bloods we arranged have been gone for 5 days. But we haven't received any news yet. By now, they should have returned. Pale Bloods have a certain addiction, and it's very difficult for them to survive outside the Blood Race territory. These scouts, even if they didn't obtain any news, would rush back at a fixed time to report. But now, not only is there no news, but the people haven't returned either. How many people did you send? The Red Duke asked. F5 people. His voice trembled slightly. Heh, none of the 5 people returned alive, yet you're living so leisurely here. The Red Duke's expression instantly turned cold. Giovanni's affair had already passed for half a month, from the initial disappearance to posting missing person notices. Some news was only obtained from the Faceless One's cabin a few days ago. 5 scouts were arranged to investigate the Undead territory mentioned in the intelligence. But after so many days, not only was no information obtained, but the people didn't return either. This had almost exhausted Duke Red's patience. Duke Red, there must be some mistake. I'll immediately send more people to gather information. The vampire in charge of intelligence immediately panicked. Humph. You should reflect on yourself. Duke Red snorted coldly and said to the outside. Someone, send him to the dungeon to reflect properly. Duke, please give me another chance. This time, I definitely won't make a mistake. Definitely not. Amidst the vampire's loud pleas for mercy, 2 blood servants walked in. The silver hooks in their hands directly pierced his collarbone, dragging him towards the dungeon. The dungeon was where vampires who had committed crimes were imprisoned. The silver iron hooks prevented the vampire's wounds from healing. In the dungeon, he would constantly feel the piercing pain and the continuous flow of blood until Duke Red remembered that there was such a person imprisoned in the dungeon. The vampire's wails grew fainter and fainter, and the hall fell into a deathly silence. Only the bloody scent in the air made the other vampires present swallow their saliva and their eyes glow red. Speak, what should be done next? You shouldn't be as useless as him, right? Duke Red's gaze swept over everyone again. Vampires were also a race guarded against by other living beings. Any action would immediately attract the attention of surrounding living forces. Therefore, he needed intelligence to know exactly how many people it would take to eliminate this undead territory and bring back the book of the vampire progenitor, and to avenge his nephew at the same time. Hearing Duke Red's question, all the vampires fell silent, some unwilling to take on this task. Duke, I have a few good scouts under my command. Why don't you let me do it? I'll definitely bring the information back to you. A vampire said he still wanted to arrange scouts. Duke Red glanced at this person but didn't agree. Those undead were already on guard, and sending scouts again wouldn't be of much use in all likelihood. The other side had even set a trap, waiting for you to send more people to their deaths. Are there any other ways? Duke Red continued to ask. The whole place was silent for a while. This time, a somewhat tall and thin man stood up, bowed slightly, and said, Duke. Oh, Fielding, what do you want to say? Duke Red looked at the thin man, raising his eyebrows slightly. Fielding played the role of an official merchant in the vampire clan, that he was responsible for the procurement and sale of goods within the territory and had a certain status among the vampires. Moreover, Duke Red wouldn't entrust him with some troublesome matters. Duke, I feel that the other side is already aware, and it won't be very effective to continue sending scouts, Fielding said softly. Duke Red nodded, which was the same as his thought. Well, if you have a better idea, just say it. Since the other party had now spoken, then he already had another idea, and it should be more secure than sending scouts. Cough. Fielding coughed lightly, looked at Duke Red seriously, and said, Duke, have you considered incorporating the city of Prol into the vampire's rule? Whoa. As soon as this was said, the whole place instantly became noisy, and even Duke Red on the throne frowned. Fielding should be clear about what this sentence represented. Once it spread, it would probably cause a war between the human race and the vampire race. Tell me your thoughts, Duke Red said directly. Without expressing his position, Fielding smiled slightly and said, Duke, the city lord of Prol, Cyril, contacted me some time ago. Oh, there's such a thing. Duke Red became interested, and so did the others. Yes, Cyril has a son who was injured a couple of years ago. He hasn't recovered to this day and probably won't live much longer. Cyril has been looking for ways to treat his son for the past 2 years, Fielding said at this point, but didn't continue. But everyone present understood what Fielding meant, that a father who had been looking for a treatment method for 2 years. As for why he would contact Fielding, it should also be about his son. What does this have to do with the undead? Duke Red continued to ask. Lord, the undead territory is north of Prol. If we can control Prol, we can not only better find out the news of the undead, but even if we go to war, Prol can send troops very well. Instead of the high plateau of Bright Moon, Fielding continued to explain. Duke Red rested his chin on his hand and fell into thought. Contacting Prol was a very risky step that, if successful, the vampires would have huge benefits. If it failed or the information was leaked, it would probably reignite the war between the two races. But it was worth a try. Fielding, Duke, leave this matter to you. If the negotiation fails, kill Cyril, but you must not reveal this matter, Duke Red said sternly. Yes, Duke. Duke Red continued to look at the people below and reminded in a cold voice. Whoever dares to say this, you know the consequences. Yes, we understand. The next day, early morning, Fang Hao woke up from his sleep, and the golden awn of wheat shone in from the window. Somewhat dazzling that he sat up from the bed and stretched. The weather was good today. He got out of bed, simply washed up, and went straight downstairs. The ear was preparing breakfast and greeted Fang Hao after seeing him. Master, why didn't you sleep a little longer? I've already slept enough, so I got up. Oh, right. Master, Scholar Nelson brought a skeleton hero this morning. He's waiting for you at the entrance of the Organ Museum, Ear said. Nelson's out. Scholar Nelson asked me to relay the message and then went back to continue working. Ear continued. Oh, I'll go take a look. He walked out of the Lord's mansion and went straight to the location of the Organ Museum. In front of the Organ Museum stood an orc skeleton hero. The hero's skeleton was large, and even after being made into a skeleton, It looked like a strong giant bear. As he got closer, he also saw the skeleton hero's name. It seemed that Nelson's first creation was the great chieftain Skullcrusher Saul of the Coldwind Mountains. Now, he could only be called Skullcrusher. Greetings, Lord. Skullcrusher knelt on one knee and lowered his head. Well, welcome to our ranks, Skullcrusher. Fang Hao helped Skullcrusher up. Thank you, Lord. Well, go to the warehouse to retrieve your equipment first. I'll take you to the Coldwind Mountains later, and then you'll manage the place for me. Yes, Lord. Skullcrusher went to the warehouse to retrieve his pre-death equipment as long as they weren't shattered. His equipment would be stored in the armory. Untouched, Skullcrusher's equipment was a set of purple heavy armor, and his weapon was a long-handled warhammer with spikes. This was also the origin of his name. Skullcrusher. Fang Hao also used this time to check Skullcrusher's attributes. Skullcrusher faction. Undead template. Purple race trait. Undead, hollow skeleton. Weakness to light legion talent. Frenzy, tyrant. Heavy infantry commander skills. Strength faith. Crush, mad hammering. Berserker's wrath inherent abilities. Advanced tactical mastery. Advanced command mastery. Advanced warhammer mastery frenzy. Units under command gain 1% strength after killing or assisting in killing an enemy, lasting 5 seconds. This effect can stack up to 15 layers. Heavy infantry commander. Infantry unit defense plus 20%. Tyrant. Units under command have morale minus 20%. All attributes plus 5%. Strength faith. All physical damage plus 20%. Self receives minus 5% non-physical damage. Crush. Damage plus 15% against inanimate armor. Mad hammering. Madly swing the warhammer at the target. Dealing 100%, /120%, /140%, /160%, /200% weapon damage. Berserker's wrath. Enter a state of rage. All attributes plus 20%. Ignores any reduction effects. Ignores pain. Skullcrusher's attributes were pretty good. Overall, he was a martial general proficient in combat. But before, when he went to manage the Coldwind Mountains, he forcibly turned it into a region of internal strife. He had a unified system, but allowed mutual plundering. As long as they didn't touch the Skullcrusher tribe's people, they could pay tribute on time every month. This also caused chaos within the Coldwind Mountains, and many mines could not be mined normally. Now that Skullcrusher's memory had been modified, he had 100% loyalty to Fang Hao and the territory. When the time came to arrange him in the Coldwind Mountains, there shouldn't be too many problems. He understood the place and had deterrence. Master, Sister Ear is calling you to have breakfast. A maid walked over. Okay, Fang Hao replied, and walked towards the Lord's mansion. After a simple breakfast, Fang Hao took in Jia, Dimitrij, and Skullcrusher, and the three of them boarded the bone dragon. After preparing everything, the bone dragon flew into the sky, heading towards the Coldwind Mountains, inside Coldwind City. When the bone dragon landed, Shaman Clay led a group of orcs to greet them. When he saw the skeleton hero following behind Fang Hao, he immediately recognized Skullcrusher's identity. Chieftain Thrall. Clay's expression changed, and the rest of the people knelt down directly. With looks of horror on their faces, it seemed that Thrall's terror had penetrated into the hearts of everyone here. Although this was a skeleton, its size and the equipment it wore were all equipment used by Skullcrusher Thrall. Everyone could confirm that the person in front of them was Skullcrusher Thrall. After death, Skullcrusher looked calmly at the kneeling crowd and said, "First, greet Lord." Skullcrusher's memory was modified, but not completely erased. Oh. Everyone immediately turned around and saluted Fang Hao. Lord. All right, how is the progress of resuming mining in the mines? Fang Hao strode into the chieftain's hall and sat directly in the main seat. The rest of the people also sat in the positions on both sides in turn. This time, an orc stood up carefully, glancing cautiously at Fang Hao and Skullcrusher, and said, Lord, the mines are being put back into operation one after another. But the tribe seem to still have some doubts and are not very active. Oh, what doubts? Fang Hao looked at him curiously. This. I boldly guess it should still be the treatment you promised. It's just my guess, just a guess. The orc said at the end. Sweat began to break out on his forehead. Fang Hao promised them that he would provide some special treatment. For example, they don't need to pay tribute and beauties every month. They only need to complete the monthly mining tasks. They will also provide some basic daily necessities, and even food for the tribes in the future. And the doubt in his mouth should still be the suspicion whether Fang Hao, a human who controls the undead army, will keep his promise. Skullcrusher. Lord, tell me. The two looked at Fang Hao at the same time. When the time comes, you will personally take a trip and arrange for people to go to the villages where the mines are being mined to open taverns, and provide free wine as needed. Fang Hao thought for a while and said, provide free wine, plus Skullcrusher's deterrence. Remind these orcs as well. They have no right to choose, either work and drink. And Fang Hao will also provide them with the necessities of life. Or return to Skullcrusher's rule. Still the original job, but it won't be so easy. Yes, Lord. Skullcrusher agreed. Fang Hao looked at the orc again. There should be no problem doing this, right? No problem, no problem. Fang Hao nodded and continued to look at Clay. Clay, is the progress of the furnace factory going smoothly? Very smoothly. The factory is operating normally. The output is very stable, and I have also arranged for people to build houses for the blacksmiths. Everything is normal. Clay replied. Okay, what about the fortress guarded by Fireblade? Orcs have also been arranged to assist with the work, Lord. Yes. Fang Hao continued to look at everyone. Are there any other questions to raise? No more. Yes. Fang Hao got up and walked towards the door, taking Skullcrusher and a few others to the warehouse. Fang Hao directly made 101 troll brewing barrels. Skullcrusher, these are the troll brewing barrels. Inject clean water and put in fruit to brew fruit wine. When the time comes, you can send it to the villages where the mines are being mined. Fang Hao introduced. Understood. Lord. Yes, you will stay here from now on. Manage these orcs well, and notify me if you need anything. Fang Hao patted Skullcrusher on the shoulder. Okay, Lord, I will definitely live up to your great trust. Good. After explaining to Skullcrusher, Fang Hao rode the bone dragon to take a look at the Coldwind Fortress. He told Fireblade, who was stationed there, a few words before returning to the main city. Returning from the Coldwind Mountains, the sky was gradually getting dark. Riding the bone dragon had shortened the round trip, but the distance was still very far, and the round trip still took several hours. Returning to the Lord's mansion, Eeyore brought up the prepared dinner. 4 dishes and a soup were quite rich, just as Fang Hao started eating. The system prompt sounded in his ears. Random event. Uninvited guest. Task description. In 10 hours, all surviving Lord territories will usher in a group of uninvited guests. They come to your territory with hostility or goodwill. Please be prepared. Event countdown. 9 hours 59 minutes. Good luck. Upon hearing the system prompt, Fang Hao's brow furrowed. Another random event had appeared. After experiencing Lord's struggle and foolhardiness, this was the third type of random event, called uninvited guests. Based on the mission description, it seemed that a group of outsiders would appear near the territory. The mention of hostile or friendly suggested that the purpose of their arrival was uncertain, that a battle might not necessarily occur, just as Fang Hao was about to check the regional channel for everyone's reaction. Another prompt appeared. The enemies were also randomly generated. His own generation was rebels, and this affiliated territory's mission had also appeared here. For a regular force, distributing the burden was the most stable method, but Fang Hao didn't need to. Zhang Bin and Fu Lei's main focus was developing agriculture, so their combat power wasn't strong. His own forces were sufficient. Whether it was rebels or bandits, it would be difficult for them to pose a threat. Moreover, this didn't seem like a combat event. Perhaps there would be special gains that he directly chose to have the main city completed. Ding. At this moment, a message from Zhang Bin came through the territory channel. Boss, you took all the missions yourself. Fu Lei also said, thank you, boss. These event missions always carried risks. Even though the description of passing travelers didn't sound like a combat event, who could be sure that the other party was coming with good intentions? It's nothing. These battles aren't difficult. You just focus on managing your own territories. Okay, boss. Thank you. The two thanked him again. Fang Hao had taken all the fighting upon himself, reducing their burden that he closed the territory channel and opened the regional channel again. Everyone was indeed discussing this matter. You say? If I abandon the city and run away, and come back after the event time is over, will it be considered a success or failure? Success. Cough. I have a friend who did that during the last Nature's Revenge. The enemies automatically disappeared when the time was up, and he could come back, but the resources in the territory would be much less, and the buildings would also be damaged. Oh, thank you, Big Boss. I understand. What the heck is Undead Patrol? My place won't be overrun by undead tomorrow, will it? What do I do about the undead? Are talismans or crucifixes effective? Does any Big Boss know? A crucifix, I guess. Talismans and stuff aren't for dealing with hopping zombies, are they? Prepare some garlic too. I've seen undead. Crucifixes don't work. I tried it myself. The person upstairs has experience. Can you teach us how to deal with them? How would I know? I ran away with my people. I didn't fight them head on. You can ask the big boss Fang Hao. His merchants are all skeletons, which should be a type of undead. Right. At Fang Hao, big boss, my territory will have undead tomorrow. Can you tell me if the undead have any weaknesses? Good heavens, they actually had DM. What characteristics could the undead have? There were many types of undead. Fang Hao thought for a moment and still replied, Undead fear light magic. If you have a way to get some, it should have a significant effect. I drink stamina potions, and I have nowhere to get light magic. Are there any other methods? Fang Hao continued, low-level undead aren't very intelligent. Make more traps and obstacles tonight. Do it all night. It can be very effective. Thanks. I'm kneeling to the big boss. I'm going to dig traps now. I'm a bandit. Does Big Boss Fang Hao have any tips or methods? Big Boss, how do I fight orc brutes? Many people started asking Fang Hao. Even if they already had plans in mind, they still wanted to ask for Fang Hao's opinion. It was as if he had a walkthrough that he simply gave everyone some advice and didn't say much more. His ability to develop to this point wasn't due to having a powerful mind, but rather the characteristic of a hundredfold troop explosion that if he didn't understand some things, saying them out loud was likely to mislead others. He hung up the regional channel and swallowed the last bite of his meal. He came to the hall and asked the maid to summon Bloodhunter. Before long, Bloodhunter walked in and said, Sir, you were looking for me? Yes. Go around the territory later and see if any special buildings have appeared. Fang Hao said. Yes, sir. I'll leave now. Okay, be careful. Come back and tell me if you find anything. Fang Hao instructed. Yes, sir. Bloodhunter walked out of the Lord's Hall, mounted the bone dragon, and flew towards the outside of the territory. An hour later, Bloodhunter landed in front of the Lord's Hall, riding the bone dragon that he quickly walked into the hall and said, Sir, I found 2 camps. The buildings in the camps are complete, but they are empty. As expected, it was similar to the Nature's Punishment mission last time. The buildings would appear when the mission was issued. The enemies in the mission would only appear when the mission countdown ended. Where are the camps located, and what is their scale? Fang Hao continued to ask. The camp on the north side is larger, estimated to accommodate tens of thousands of people. The camp on the east side is slightly smaller. More like a small village, Bloodhunter replied. Okay. Fang Hao nodded. It seemed that the size of the camp was directly related to the number of people. The mission prompt said there were 30,000 rebels, so that should be the camp to the north. The smaller one would be the bandits, and the number should not be large. Fang Hao looked at a maid. Go and call to meet Ganesha and Anya over. Yes, master. There were 4 heroes in the main city, Nelson, Bloodhunter, Anya, and to meet Ganesha. Nelson was making the remaining skeleton heroes and couldn't participate in tomorrow's event mission. Therefore, he could only assign some tasks to the remaining 3 heroes. When the maid returned, to meet Ganesha was following behind her, and Anya also came down from upstairs. They sat in the seats on one side. Fang Hao spoke. 2 camps have appeared to the north and east of the territory. Enemies will appear tomorrow morning and launch an attack on the territory. Sir, what do you mean? Demit Ganesha will be responsible for the larger camp to the east. Arrange troops to surround them for me. Don't let a single one get out, Fang Hao said. Yes, sir. Demit Ganesha nodded to indicate understanding. Fang Hao continued to look at Anya. Anya, you are responsible for the camp on the east side. Bloodhunter will be stationed in the city. Okay. The 2 also nodded one after another. Night. To meet Ganesha and Anya went to see the two empty territories under the cover of darkness. They made arrangements. Early the next morning. Anya, wake up. We still have a mission today. Fang Hao shouted from the doorway. He called several times, but there was still no response from the room. No one. That can't be. Fang Hao wondered to himself and pushed open the door. When the door opened, he saw Anya lying on her side on the bed in the bedroom. Her white hair was spread out like clouds. She was wearing a loose tank top on her upper body, and her small pants wrapped around her rounded buttocks. Good heavens, everyone else is taking action, and you're still sleeping. Slap? A crisp sound echoed in the room. Anya instantly woke up, covering her butt, and said through gritted teeth, "What are you doing?" "What am I doing? Look at the time. Who was it that promised me they would wake up early today?" Fang Hao retorted. "Ah." And Jia suddenly remembered that she had been assigned a task today. While getting dressed, she said, "You could have just called me. Why did you hit me? I could wake you up, but with your sleep quality, you wouldn't even know if the house collapsed." Fang Hao said through gritted teeth. "Hee hee, I was wrong. What are we having for breakfast this morning?" And Jia stuck out her tongue, rubbing her backside as she walked out. The two went downstairs. And Eeyore had already prepared breakfast. There was plenty of time. Enough for them to finish eating. After eating their fill, Demeter and Njia, each leading 100,000 and 20,000 troops respectively, headed towards their assigned camps. Demeter was responsible for the eastern side, where the mission description stated there were 30,000 rebels. His 100,000 troops, plus several bone dragons, were more than enough to flatten the place. The only downside was that this camp couldn't be dismantled. Otherwise, the human wave tactic would be even more effective. As for the bandits that Njia was responsible for, although the number of troops wasn't indicated, a village-level camp probably only had a few hundred people. Njia's 20,000 troops were more than enough to handle it. 20 minutes later, Fang Hao used Divine Presence to follow Demeter to the camp. Melee units surrounded the camp several layers deep. Ranged units climbed onto the walls, and bone dragons poked their heads inside the walls, ready to unleash their death breath at any moment. The camp was like a giant bowl, waiting for the rebels inside to appear. Time passed little by little, with the appearance of the prompt. Large areas of light suddenly appeared on the open ground inside the camp. Rebels wearing iron armor and triangular iron helmets appeared one after another in the camp. On the high platform, a general held a knight's sword aloft, and as soon as he appeared, he loudly declared, "The scouts have received news. There is a territory to the south. As long as we occupy. Midway through his impassioned speech, the general's expression instantly changed. The rebels present also turned pale. Unbeknownst to them, the camp's defensive walls were already covered with densely packed, fully armed undead, holding bows and arrows and staffs, staring at them with grim determination above the walls. There were even several bone dragons, their heads poking in from above, staring at them with curiosity. What was happening? Why was their camp surrounded by the undead? They were like rabbits in an iron cage, being watched by hunters. The undead did not give the rebels much time to think and react. With a shout of attack sounding out, all the undead began their assault. The bone dragons unleashed black energy beams, and the rebels in their path instantly turned into skeletons. The archers and mages on the walls also launched their attacks simultaneously. A rain of arrows and magic missiles poured down, like a black net. It enveloped the entire camp. "Quick, find cover. Quick, don't just stand there." The general directly hid in the wooden house, loudly directing from outside. He didn't understand what was happening, and there was no time to think now. He had to get the soldiers to hide first, to avoid such a dense attack. Inside the camp, bodies were everywhere, and severed limbs flew in the bombardment of magic missiles. Blood stained the ground dark red, forming streams that flowed outward. The general watched everything through gritted teeth. He couldn't wait any longer. Once the undead had cleared most of them out, they would have no chance to break through. He shouted loudly to the rebels in the other buildings, "Find shields. Follow me and charge out later. This is our last chance. We'll avenge our other brothers later." "Okay," the rebels responded. Everyone began looking for shields and anything else that could be used as a shield. Tables, chairs, or the iron armor on their dead comrades. "Are you ready?" "Ready. Shield formation." People from the nearby rooms quickly gathered together, pooling their shields to block the arrows coming from all directions. The rebels were, after all, of higher quality than the bandits, the general's command. They could quickly form a formation. Arrows clattered against the shields as they moved towards the camp gate. Along the way, rebels continuously joined, and the scale of the tortoise formation gradually increased, trampling over the muddy ground as they hurried towards the camp gate. Hold on, we're almost outside. The general encouraged the team. All the rebels persevered, moving outwards. When everyone finally stepped out of the camp gate, their steps couldn't help but stop, their faces ashen. Outside the territory, there were layers upon layers of undead army, densely packed and seemingly endless. The next second, a black beam of light swept through the shield formation, turning everyone into skeletons. Next, the melee units entered the field, dragging out and killing the rebels hiding in corners and houses. The battle lasted only a little over an hour before it ended. The skeletons cleaned up the battlefield, beginning to collect equipment, arrows, and wriggling spines. Knock, knock. The door was gently knocked, followed by ears calling voice. Master, master. Fang Hao deactivated divine presence and sat up in bed. What is it, Master? Bloodhunter adults caught a few people. During the interrogation, they said they were just passing through here. Ear said softly from the side. Ear's words reminded Fang Hao of the third random event. He had indeed overlooked this matter. If they were truly ordinary merchants or travelers, they would probably have been killed by the undead as soon as they got close if they hadn't been discovered by the Bloodhunter. These people would most likely have bypassed the undead area and left directly. Oh, take me to see. Yes, master. Ear led Fang Hao out of the Lord's mansion. In the open space in the center, several people were being guarded by the undead, kneeling on the ground with their heads in their hands. Adult. What's going on? We found these people acting suspiciously during patrol. It's a time of alert, so we brought them back. Bloodhunter glanced at the people kneeling on the ground. Esteemed adult, we were just passing through here. Because we didn't have enough food, we were looking for a nearby city to exchange for some. A human hastily explained. Fang Hao looked at this person. Technician? Male technician? Does this world already have the physiotherapy industry? The technician team was not composed solely of humans. There were also dwarves and elves among them. But they were all male, especially the dwarf technician, who was short and had a beard denser than his hair. The few of them were travel-worn, which did confirm their identity as travelers. Hand over your weapons. You can rest in the city for a while, and I will arrange for someone to prepare food for you, Fang Hao said. Thank you. The few of them exchanged glances and placed their weapons to the side. Sit down and chat. I'll have food prepared for you soon, and then you can leave. They are my guards and won't harm you, Fang Hao explained. The few technicians stood up and sat down on a nearby bench, somewhat reservedly. Fang Hao continued to ask, what should I call you? My name is Ram, and these are my companions, the leading male technician replied. Oh, where are you going? How did you end up here? We are returning to the city where we live. We just didn't realize that you had built a city here, so we mistakenly entered. The maids brought fruit wine for everyone. After thanking them, the technicians gulped it down, judging by their appearance. Food must be even scarcer than they said. Prepare some food for them first. Let them eat their fill before setting off. Fang Hao continued to the maid. Yes, master. The maid answered and went to prepare the food. Thank you very much, sir. May I ask your name? Ram leaned forward to show his respect. Fang Hao. Oh, Mr. Fang Hao, we will remember your kindness. No need. It's just a small help. Fang Hao smiled slightly, indicating that they didn't need to take it to heart. As they chatted, the technicians gradually became less reserved than at the beginning and began to talk more with Fang Hao. They even inquired why these skeletons listened to Fang Hao. Fang Hao couldn't explain it well, so he could only say that it was an ability, allowing him to command the skeletons, and not like those undead who indiscriminately attacked living beings. The maids brought the food, and the technicians thanked them while wolfing it down. In his chat with Ram, Fang Hao also obtained some information. They had just returned from working in the underground mines south of the territory. The food they brought with them was not calculated properly, not enough for them to eat on their return journey. They exchanged some for food in the villages along the way, but it was still difficult to hold out until they reached their city. Fortunately, they met Fang Hao, who provided them with food and was willing to prepare the grain they needed for the rest of the journey. After finishing the rice in his bowl, Ram wiped his hands on the hem of his clothes. After thanking Fang Hao again, he pulled his companions aside and began to whisper to them. Fang Hao didn't disturb them, but waited quietly. The technicians discussed for a long time. Ram then looked at Fang Hao with a smile, wiped his hands again, and reached into his old leather bag. Taking out a huge piece of parchment, he respectfully presented it to Fang Hao and said, "Mr. Fang Hao, thank you again for your hospitality and help. The money we had was used to exchange food with the villagers. This blueprint represents our gratitude as a thank you gift to you." From Ram's expression, it could be seen that he valued this blueprint very much. "All right, I accept your gift." Fang Hao didn't hesitate and took the parchment from the other party's hand. The blueprint was huge, even with his arms outstretched. He could barely open it. Acquired. Gargoyle Construct Complete Production Blueprint. Gargoyle Construct Complete Production Blueprint. Basic Head Production Blueprint. Headstone Armor Production Blueprint. Basic Torso Production Blueprint. Torso Stone Armor Production Blueprint. Basic Arm Production Blueprint. Arm Stone Armor Production Blueprint. Basic Leg Production Blueprint. Leg Stone Armor Production Blueprint. Good heavens, a complete set. All recorded on one large blueprint. Now Fang Hao also knew that Ram and the others were not cobblers. He had obtained the Gargoyle Construct blueprint very early on, and only now did he obtain the blueprints for its parts. Moreover, each part was actually a separate set of blueprints. If he hadn't obtained a complete set of blueprints from Ram, it would probably have taken until the Year of the Monkey to collect them individually. Mr. Fang Hao, it records a lot of knowledge related to constructs. If you are not interested, it is also a very valuable collectible, Ram continued. Constructs involve a variety of disciplines, requiring systematic study, and even more so. Talent.it was already too late for Fang Hao to learn at his current age, but as a construct blueprint, it was enough to be collected as a collectible. Thank you, Mr. Ram. I like this item very much. Which direction is your city? I can arrange for soldiers to escort you there. Fang Hao became increasingly curious about the identities of these people. Ram and the others glanced at the undead to the side and quickly waved their hands. No need, no need. We can go back ourselves. That's fine then. Prepare more food and water. Yes, master. The food and water were loaded onto their carts, enough for them to use for the rest of their journey. Besides, they were just tasks and random events. When the time was up, they would naturally disappear. After resting in the city, Ram and the others walked out of the territory, seeing Fang Hao off. Mr. Fang Hao, thank you again for your help. I hope we have the opportunity to meet again in the future. Ram thanked him again. We will, Mr. Ram, Fang Hao said, waving goodbye to him. After seeing off Ram and the others, Fang Hao returned to the territory that he used the Lord's Book to collect the blueprint that it could be said that this was his greatest gain from the 3 tasks. Speaking of tasks, Fang Hao frowned again. Dimitega had already returned with the soldiers who had cleaned up the battlefield. How come Jia hadn't returned yet? Could something have happened? Thinking of this, he felt a little uneasy and hurriedly returned to the room to cast Divine Descent on the troop carried by Jia. Divine Descent was successful. Looking at the scene before him, Fang Hao was a little dumbfounded. Where is this? Isn't this the fortress between the territory and Pearl City? Could it be that Jia brought the troops here? Looking around, he found Jia's figure at the entrance of the fortress that he quickly stepped forward and asked, Jia, why did you bring the troops here? Has the bandit camp been cleared out? Jia used to be mischievous, but she always completed the assigned tasks seriously. She had never encountered a situation like today's. It's been cleared out, aren't they over there? Jia pointed to the ditch ahead. Fang Hao looked in the direction she was pointing and saw hundreds of burly men, holding various tools, cleaning the river channel. You brought them here to dig a river. Fang Hao was stunned. Increasing the depth and width of the river channel was what Fang Hao had mentioned before. In order to make the wooden bridge in front of the fortress the only entrance, originally, he planned to have the skeletons do the digging. But he hadn't paid much attention to it these past 2 days because he was busy with other things. Jia actually remembered, and even brought the bandits from the task to serve as coolies. Wouldn't it be a pity to kill them? Let them work, and Jia said this. It seems to make some sense. He could bring those tens of thousands of rebel troops to work. The task time was 12 hours. Let them dig until the task ended, and they would automatically disappear. He wouldn't have to provide food, and they would do a lot of work, and no matter how he thought about it, it was a win-win situation. They appeared, and you brought them here? Fang Hao asked curiously. An Jia sat down on a wooden box to the side, watching the bandits working honestly below like a supervisor, and said, not really. They were still very rampant when they came out, shouting and yelling, and even said that they had the advantage in numbers and wanted to fight me one-on-one. And then I beat up their boss and second-in-command and stuff. And they became much more obedient afterwards, and Jia said casually. She also pointed to a strong guy in iron armor with a bruised face in the distance. That it seems that he was the boss and Jia was talking about. Okay, then keep an eye on them and don't cause any trouble. Don't worry. Fang Hao nodded and released the divine descent state. After confirming Jia's safety, Fang Hao began to check the acquired blueprint if all the materials could be made. He could try to make some gargoyle constructs to increase his combat power. Gargoyle basic head, iron 5. Cast iron block 2, metal parts 12. Precision parts 8. Gargoyle basic torso, iron 15. Cast iron block 8, metal parts 42. Precision parts 17. Gargoyle basic arms, gargoyle basic legs. The material requirements for the gargoyles. Basic body parts were not too high. Fang Hao could provide the consumables, but when he looked at the gargoyle's stone armor next, a material he didn't have appeared. It was called carved stone slab, headstone armor, cast iron block 2, carved stone slab 1, mithril 2, mana essence 1. Torso stone armor, cast iron block 18, carved stone slab 8, mithril 10, mana essence 5. Corresponding to the basic body. The gargoyle also needed stone armor for its body parts. Back in Little Yu's ancient tomb, the gargoyle's stone armor had very strong defense. When his tier 1 skeleton soldiers slashed at it with iron swords, sparks would fly. Even Jia, a blue-ranked hero, had to exert some effort to break through the stone armor. This showed that the gargoyle's stone armor already possessed a certain level of defense. It was even stronger than the defense of common iron armor. This made Fang Hao value it quite a bit. Of course, there was a second point, which Fang Hao himself calculated that if crafting parts like arms and torsos triggered the hundredfold increase, then combining these parts to synthesize a gargoyle would trigger the hundredfold increase again. Wouldn't that be 100 times 100 times? At that point, the effect of mass-producing troops might not be worse than that of skeleton soldiers. This possibility was quite high. Should he go to the Alliance and fill this week's order with the blueprint for the carved stone slab? However, it was still uncertain whether the carved stone slab would be produced as a finished product or a blueprint. A stone processing plant would more likely produce finished products. Thump, thump, thump. Outside the Lord's mansion, approaching footsteps and the sound of armor rubbing could be heard. Immediately after, Dimitega walked in with his helmet in his arms. Lord, the rebels have been cleared out, and we have gained a large amount of weapons, equipment, and wriggling spines, Dimitega reported. Good, you've worked hard. Dimitega, Fang Hao praised. Dimitega's arrival had significantly boosted the territory's strength. Lord, we also found this, he said, handing Fang Hao an item that looked like an emblem. The metal emblem was shaped like a metal shield, with a war horn pattern imprinted on it. Horn of Valor, orange emblem. Category, emblem ability. When worn, human. War horn attribute, plus 100%. Description, during the dark ages of humanity, they united, wearing the Horn of Valor. Noble conviction, sacred bulwark, sharp thorn, and just truth, to unite humanity against foreign races and defend humanity's last shred of dignity. On this continent, every race had its own advantages and characteristics, but the human race seemed exceptionally weak, whether facing orcs or ogres. They were at a complete disadvantage. It seemed that humanity had gone through a dark period before, and through unity and struggle, they had gained their current living space. The Horn of Valor, noble conviction, sacred bulwark, sharp thorn, and just truth, mentioned in the description, should be different emblems. each increasing different attributes. It could be said that the significance of these emblems to humanity far outweighed the abilities they themselves provided. It was just unknown why they appeared in the hands of the rebels. Perhaps they were subordinates of the emblem wearers, or obtained through other means. These were not important to Fang Hao. The emblem's attributes were good, and only humans could wear it. For him, it was a good piece of equipment. Time passed little by little. The sky gradually darkened. The system prompt sounded again. Congratulations to all lords. The random event, uninvited guest task has ended. Next, based on the comprehensive score of items obtained, the top 3 items and their owners will be announced. The random event ended. The enemies who were still attacking also sounded the retreat horn, disappearing after returning to their original camps. And those who achieved victory had already obtained rewards from the enemies. The top 3 announcement. First place, Horn of Valor orange quality, held by Fang Hao. Second place, Alliance token purple quality, held by Utianpeng. Third place, Gargoyle construct blueprint blue quality, held by Fang Hao. The system prompt ended. The channel area erupted into heated discussion again. Holy crap, Boss Fang Hao is awesome. His #1 position is unshakable. I accept that Boss Fang Hao got first. But why are both first and third his? I'm so jealous I could die. My purple necklace didn't even make it to 3rd place. I'm not convinced. I'm going to find customer service. I called customer service. Boss Fang Hao answered. He asked me where my territory was. Never heard of Boss Utianpeng. A new boss, almost surpassed Boss Fang Hao. How can purple surpass orange? But Boss Utianpeng is indeed awesome. Everyone praised Fang Hao, then praised Utianpeng. Seeing that neither of them spoke, the voices of flattery gradually lowered. I'm not envious of the 2 bosses. Mine is a green hero recruitment scroll, and I got a green elf hero, the kind with pointed ears, big hips, and huge breasts. You know what I mean. Holy crap. I'm instantly not envious of them anymore. I want big hips too. Envious of those with women. Why can't I even catch a female unicorn sheep here? Next, the lord who recruited the female hero even took many photos from various angles and posted them in the channel, drawing a chorus of "Your woman is great." Fang Hao watched the chat channel, but did not participate in the discussion. But his attention was focused on this person, Yu Tianpeng. Fang Hao had no impression of this person, but one thing made him quite concerned. That was, this Yu Tianpeng was on his blacklist. In other words, this Yu Tianpeng had either verbally attacked him in the channel before, or was a member of the former Azure Dragon Mutual Aid Alliance. The latter possibility was greater. This person ranked 2nd was very likely his potential enemy. Of course, Fang Hao only paid a little attention to this. To avoid being tripped by a rabbit he didn't care about. Clang. Just then, Njia also came back. As soon as she stepped through the gate of the Lord's mansion, she complained that she was hungry and that Fang Hao was mistreating her. Ear smiled and brought her the prepared dinner, along with some pastries Njia liked. In the territory, the maids and heroes who got along best were Ear and Njia. They were both beastkin and had joined Fang Hao's command one after another. Njia's personality was also carefree and not complicated. Njia, did you get anything good from those bandits? Fang Hao leaned closer and asked. Njia was startled, then exclaimed, how did you know? What good stuff? Let me see. Well, it's not impossible. Njia directly threw over a leather money pouch. Fang Hao caught it and checked its attributes. Greed pouch category. Money pouch ability. For each gold coin stored, wearer's attack power plus 1%, maximum 5 coins. Description: greed makes you stronger.